Okay, shall we come back together? Great. So I want to share something very simple with you this morning. Not from 2 Corinthians, actually. We're going to take a little break just today from our series in 2 Corinthians that we've been working through over the last few weeks. I'm not going to speak for too long, probably, either. But then we are going to take communion together. And although what I'm going to say is quite simple, in some ways it's more of a thought than it is a full sermon, if you like. But it's quite sort of a concept, but I hope it'll land okay with you. I was away at our Elim Leaders Conference this week in Harrogate, joining with 1,500 to 2,000 other leaders from across our denomination, so pastors, youth workers, children's workers, elders, plus missionaries from all around the world. It's always great just to be together in one room and worship together and hear God's word preached. And it's also the official business sessions of our denomination. So in the afternoon, we have these sort of parliamentary-style debating sessions. They're less argy-bargy than they were in the olden days. Everybody's much nicer nowadays. There used to be a lot of point of order, Mr. Chairman, and standing up, but we don't have that now. It's a bit more visionary, thankfully. But it was a good few days away. I heard a lot of sermons, as you would expect, being away at a conference. But while I was there, one thing particularly just stuck in my mind, and it wasn't from any of the main stage sessions or the big speakers, although I will put some links in the newsletter this week to some of the best sessions for you to listen to. What stuck in my mind was pretty much a throwaway comment in a conversation with a friend of mine outside of a session, a friend of mine called Sean, who is a pastor on a team in Rugby, Elim Church. And he referred to a verse in John chapter 15. John chapter 15 and verse 5, where Jesus is speaking. It's not on screen for you, but it's only one verse, so I'm going to read it to you. Jesus says in John 15:5, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Let me read it to you again. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you'll bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. And the comment that my friend Sean said that just struck me was this. He said, vines, or fruit trees, fruit bushes, whatever, have seasons. They don't produce fruit all year round, even a healthy vine. So it's really important to know what season you're in. Vines have seasons. They don't produce fruit all year round, so it's really important to know what season you're in. If you were to go just at the moment up to Polgoon Vineyard, to our local vineyard, and go out there and have a little look in late spring as we are, then in theory, I haven't been up there for a while, but in theory, you would see the vines waking up. You would see something called bud burst, apparently. I don't know if they call it that up there, but according to the Tinternet, they call it bud burst. Leaves and buds will be starting to appear on the vines. There's to be some signs of life on the branches. There's no grapes yet. There's no fruit at all. There are no flowers. There's nothing else. Just some signs of life. Just these buds that will become flowers and then will go on to become fruit. It's getting ready for the fruit that's to come. And it's a really risky time for any plant at the moment because they can start to bud, but then a sneaky frost can come. Even in Cornwall, we can get the odd sneaky frost, and it can do an awful lot of damage. So you've got to be on the lookout. If you were to come back in a month or so in the summer and go up to the same vineyard and have a little look at what's going on, then you'll start to see flowers on the vines, just little flowers there. And the flowers will start to pollinate. Do you want an interesting fact? You're going to get it whether you want it or not. Thank you. Grapevines are usually self-pollinating. Apparently, they have the male and the female whatever in the flower, so they self-pollinate. They don't need bees and insects like most other fruit trees. But anyway, that's just a little throwaway for you, just in case that comes up in a quiz at any point. But out of that self-pollination, you'll start to see some little tiny hard green grapes appearing. Nothing you could eat, I mean, you see the same if you were to look, say, on a bramble. You'd see little tiny green, hard blackberries. They're inedible at the moment, but they're just starting to come. They're a sign that the fruit is coming. And as the summer progresses, on the vines, the leaves will start to grow and a canopy will start to develop on the vines. And if you don't tend to that and cut it back a bit, then the canopy will start to remove the light from getting through to the fruit, and it won't be able to ripen properly. You've got to be on it and manage that season well. And then as the summer keeps going, the grapes are going to soften. They'll change color as they go on. They go from green to that kind of yellow, goldeny color that a white grape will be, or to that sort of red, deep purple color that a red grape will be. You've got to watch out in this time for the pests, for the insects, for the birds, the animals, those things that will eat the fruit before it's fully ripened, before you can harvest it. And then as late summer turns into early autumn, the grapes will sweeten and the acidity levels will drop and they're ready for harvest. Can't leave it too long, because if you leave it too long, they're going to drop onto the floor, or other animals are going to eat them. They're going to over-ripen. They're going to spoil. Now's the time to work like the clappers and bring in the harvest of the fruit. But then as autumn goes on, the leaves are going to turn yellow. Eventually, they're going to start to drop, and it's going to head back towards just being branches again, because as it heads into winter, growth is going to stop. Everything will look a bit dead. But actually, the vine is storing carbohydrates in the ground to protect it through the winter, and so it's got all the energy it needs for next year's budburst, because it won't have that from the sun. It needs to store it ready. And of course, now in winter, the branches are cut back so that it's ready to produce more fruit next year. And the point of all that is not to give you some kind of horticultural lesson, not to show you how good I am at looking things up on Google, because we can all do that. That's a bit pointless. The point is to say to you that a vineyard has seasons. A healthy, fruit-bearing vine does not produce fruit all year round. It rests for 4 months, and it grows for 8 months. And the harvest of fruit is a really short window, and it lasts for 2 to 4 weeks, something like that. It's a really quick one. Now, in this analogy, as I'm talking about this, I'm not talking about Jesus, who describes himself as the vine in the passage that we've just read. He doesn't have seasons like this. He always bears fruit. It's never winter with Jesus, all right? It's never winter with him. I'm talking about us as the branches on the vine who is Jesus. And although, as John says, or Jesus says in John 15, verse 16, a later verse, he says, Jesus has chosen us and appointed us to bear fruit. That fruit bearing has different seasons. And thinking about which season we're in can be really helpful for us. Let's just have a little think about a couple of things. Firstly, what is the fruit that Jesus talks about when he says about bearing fruit? Well, John 15, 16, Jesus says, you're going to bear fruit that lasts. It's going to last. And when he says last, he means not just in this lifetime, not just like last for a little while. He means lasting into eternity, lasting forever. So as Christians, we are connected to Jesus. We're the branches, he's the vine, and we're connected to him. And that means that we have the potential to bear fruit that will last forever, that will last into eternity, last into heaven. There is the potential for our lives to bear fruit that will go beyond what we can see, beyond what we can understand, beyond our lifetimes. In other words, all the normal stuff of life, jobs, buildings, cars, houses, bank balances, hobbies, everything like that, does not fall into the category of fruit that will last. None of it will last. This building's 150 years old. It might last for another 150 years. It might last for another 1,000 years, I doubt it. But, it might do, whatever. But it will not last forever. One day this building will fall down. Looking at that, could be any time soon. Who knows? No, it's not. Don't worry. It's been checked. It's all right. What was I saying? Anyway. Fruit. So what is this eternal fruit that Jesus is talking about? Well, principally, I think it has to be to do with the work of the gospel in people's lives. Because ultimately, the fruit that lasts forever is the work of salvation that God does in our hearts. when he saves us, when he gives us new life, when he brings us from death into life, that is what will last forever. That work of the gospel that brings us through into a relationship with God. And so as you and I, as believers, as Christians, as we sow the seeds of the gospel, as we go around telling people the good news about Jesus, and as people are saved, as people put their trust in him, as people start to follow him, that is fruit that will last forever. Because that is fruit that we will see in eternity. It will be there. Like, it doesn't stop when a person dies. When a Christian dies, we will see the fruit of that in heaven, if you like, because they will go on to be with him forever. I mean, there's other fruit, I think, that is eternal as well, in the sense of us becoming more like Jesus. Paul talks about the fruit of the Spirit being developed in our lives. You know, those things like love, joy, peace, patience, all those kind of things, as they develop in us, I think we'll take those things into eternity. There's an eternal nature to that fruit as well. But what I find amazing about this is that Jesus says, we will bear fruit that lasts. We will. Like John 15, verse 5, if you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. You will do it. John 15, verse 16, Jesus says he's chosen and appointed us to bear fruit. Now it's linked to abiding in him. It's linked to remaining in him. It's part of our being connected and being in relationship with Jesus. But if we are, it's definite. You will bear fruit. It's not like a might be or a possibly or a maybe. Jesus says, no, if you remain in me, you will bear fruit, and it will be fruit that lasts. The problem is that for a lot of us, that statement doesn't feel like it matches up with our lives. We sort of hear that, and then we look at our lives and we think, I don't know. I don't know if I'm seeing much fruit that will last forever. I don't know whether I'm seeing that. And we know that sometimes you don't know what's going on. You know, you might share the gospel with someone, and you're then a stranger, and you never meet them again, and you don't know what's going on. We understand that, but a lot of the time, we kind of know, and we look, and we think, I'm not seeing that much fruit from my life. You know, we're sowing seeds of the gospel, and we're struggling to see much come of it, or certainly very little come of it. Every invitation seems to go to nothing. Every gospel conversation seems to lead not very far. Or we're running a ministry, we're running a church activity, or whatever it might be, and it just feels like it's hard work. It can feel a bit dead sometimes in what we're doing, and you wonder what the point is. And you're thinking, Jesus, where's the fruit that you promised? You said we will bear fruit, but I'm struggling to see this fruit. Where is this fruit? Well, I think that's where this idea of the seasons of a fruit-bearing vine are really helpful to us. Just because you can't see any immediate fruit doesn't mean that you're failing, and it doesn't mean that Jesus is failing. It just means that you are a fruit-bearing vine in a different season. You're a fruit-bearing vine in a different season. So what are those seasons in our lives? Well, one thing we've got to say is it's nothing to do with age. Nothing to do with age. So it's not that a young person is automatically in spring, and because I'm in my 50s, I'm in autumn. Am I? Let's call it late summer. I'm in my early 50s. The late summer of my life. Thank you. September. Well, that feels quite late. End of August. It's bank holiday weekend. That's where I'm at. And we know, don't we, anyway, we know from the grapevine, we know that the seasons of a grapevine come and go every year. Like every year there's a spring, summer, autumn, winter, isn't there? Every year. So we're not talking about the big seasons of life, you know, like the spring of life or the summer. We're not kind of talking about those big ones. Remember what Psalm 92 verse 14 says, talking about righteous people who are Christians, believers. It says, they will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green. You feeling fresh and green this morning? Fantastic. That was really enthusiastic. Seasons are not about age, okay? They come and go regularly in our lives. All of us will have different points in our lives where we are in a season that feels like spring. We feel awakened, we feel excited, like the buds are bursting, if you like. They're coming up everywhere. There seems to be all this potential. There's all this there's so much that's coming. New things bursting up. There's growth, but not necessarily much fruit to show for it. It's like the potential is there, and we can sense it and feel it. And it felt like that in Discovery Church for quite a long time, actually. I felt like we were in spring for quite a long time. Buds bursting, signs of growth everywhere, but not really any real fruit to show for it. At least it didn't feel like it. But here's the thing. If you don't have spring, you can't have summer. And if you don't have summer, you can't have a harvest. You have to have these different seasons. There are seasons in our life that are like summer, where there's growth and there's vibrancy and there's color. And maybe we're starting to see the signs of the fruit. The fruit is coming. It's even starting to kind of ripen or head towards ripening. But it's not quite ready yet. We're not quite there yet. I mean, it feels good. It feels like we're moving in the right direction. We love summer. It's great. But it's not quite harvest time yet. And then there's the harvest season. The fruit comes thick and fast. Like those moments where people are saved. And lives are changed. And sometimes it happens more than you can cope with, more than you're ready for. The fruit is ripe and ready. Although if there's ever two words on supermarket packaging that are utterly meaningless, they are ripe and ready. Because they never are they? It might as well just say rock hard. Take it home, leave it on the side. It'll stay rock hard for about a week and a half, and then it'll go off. And you throw it away. But anyway, I suppose that teaches us for eating fruit that comes from a different country, doesn't it? We should eat our own fruit, shouldn't we? But it's easier to harvest when the fruit is ripe and ready. I mean, it's hard work, but it's easier to pick when it's ready. And then, of course, there's the full-blown autumn. You sense you're heading away from harvest. You sense you're heading towards kind of winter. Some of the things that have defined growth in the last few seasons drop away. And you head into winter where everything seems to stop. It feels a bit dead and cold and unproductive. But remember, winter is not the end of the life cycle of the vine. It's just the next season. And winter needs to be there because it's a time of rest and replenishment, ready for the spring that's coming. Energy is being stored, ready for the bud burst that is to come. And so the question, I think, for each of us today is not so much, are you bearing fruit? I don't think the question is, are you bearing fruit? Because Jesus said, you will bear fruit if you're connected to me, if you're abiding in me. He's called you and he's appointed you for that to happen. He's chosen you to bear fruit. The question is not, are you bearing fruit? The question is, what season are you in? What season are you in? Because every season is essential to the harvest, but we live and we respond differently depending on the season that we're in. You see, if you are in winter, and it feels like winter, which can be really hard because everything feels a bit dead and cold, I want to say you don't need to despair in that time. If you're not seeing the fruit that you want to see around you and in your life, don't despair because maybe you're just in the season of winter and God is putting the energy into the soil, if you like, to prepare you for what is to come. There is a bud burst coming, but you need the winter to have the carbohydrates stored to be ready so that you're ready with the energy that's needed. So if you're in winter, don't disconnect yourself from God at this moment. Don't disconnect yourself from Jesus the vine. Don't give up, but be patient and allow God to do what he's doing in your life. Don't try and force spring to come either. It will come when God says it's time to come. And it might come really quickly. It may take a little longer. Some winters, we burst into spring really early. Some, they take a bit longer. It depends on all sorts of things. But if you're in winter, just rest in God. Don't worry about what it looks around you, because Jesus can move you from one season to another when he wants to. And if you are in summer or harvest, it's time to crack on. It is time to crack on, because otherwise the fruit will over-ripen and drop. It will spoil. So if that's you, then don't delay. Can I encourage you to push in? If you're in a season where you know as you talk to people and share the gospel with them, you're seeing people come to faith and you're seeing God move in people's lives and you're seeing things grow in your life and in the lives of others around you, then that's not the time to sit back and rest. It's time to crack on because you don't know how long the harvest is going to last for. The harvest in a grapevine can be 4 weeks and then it's gone. It's quick. Let's crack on. You know, as a church, I think we're in summer, maybe even late summer. I think we're seeing growth, we're seeing vibrancy, we're seeing color, we're seeing signs of fruit, we're seeing glimpses of the harvest, but maybe not quite the full harvest yet. Like we're seeing, it's nearly there. Like the grapes are changing color, but they're not quite ready to pick yet. So we've got to be ready for that. I think at the moment we're having to cut back some leaves. I told you it was conceptual this morning. Having to cut back some leaves in order for the sun to shine through. We're changing some of our structures, aren't we, a little bit? Just so that the sun can shine through fully. We've gone to 2 services in order that the sun can shine through. There's all sorts of those kind of things that they're not to do with the harvest, if you like, but they're making sure that we're ready for the harvest. I think maybe we're learning what to do with the fruit in small quantities so that we're ready when the harvest does come. We're like working it out. Been talking with people this week about discipleship courses for new believers, like so that we're ready. Because we've just got a few at the moment. There's like a little, there's just a few grapes, like you can pick them off. But actually, if all the bunches start coming in, we'll need to be ready. We've got to be on our guard against the pests that would seek to come and pick off the fruit before it's ripe. We've got to be on our guard. We've got to be ready. You see, Jesus says in John 15, he says, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you'll bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. The question is not, are you bearing fruit? The question is, which season are you in? Understand it and embrace it and seek God in it. And stay connected to Jesus, remain in him, abide in him, be part of the vine so that you will become the most fruitful you can be. Because at some point, harvest time will come. I want to say just as well, if you're here this morning and you're not a Christian, you're not a believer, you're not a follower of Jesus, and you're thinking, I didn't realize they just talked about horticulture in church. Well, I want to say to you that Jesus has come to save you. He's given his life for you. He's come so that you might be forgiven of your sin. He's come so that you might receive and know his mercy, so that you might know God as your friend and Father. He came to this earth, Jesus, and he lived a perfect life, and he died on the cross in your place and took all the punishment for all your sin and all your mess and all the stuff that is wrong in your life. He took that on himself so that you might be righteous before God, so that you can know God. And this morning you can come to know him. Just come to him and give your life to him. Say sorry for living life your own way and start following him. And he will save you. He will rescue you. And he will cause you to be his child. Come to know him today. I want to do something different just for 2 minutes before we take communion now. I want you to chat to the person next to you or the people around you. If you hate this, don't worry about it. Just sit. You can sit quietly. That's fine. I know I hate it when I'm sat down there, but that's the way it is. Joe's nodding like, yeah, you really hate it. Why are you doing this? But it's good. Chat to the person next to you and just about what season you think you might be in. Just have a quick chat, just 2 minutes, about what season you think you might be in together. Have a little chat.